studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPTA 20, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome to the Gaily Show, the only daily LGBTQ radio news and talk show in the United States. I'm your host, John Parker. It is Friday, and we end our weeks talking about culture and entertainment because LGBTQ artists and writers and filmmakers and theater makers are one of the most censored groups in America today. And every week we want to uplift their work for you to read and watch and go to. What is on the show today? Okay, we didn't plan it this way, but we have a Dr. Seuss theme to the show today. So in the second half hour of our program, award-winning children's author David LaRochelle joins me to talk about his new books, How to Draw a Tree and Mr. Fox's Game of No. However, one of the awards that he's won is the prestigious Theodor Seuss Geisel Award, which is named after Theodor Geisel, aka Dr. Seuss. It's given to the most distinguished American book for beginning readers published in English in the US in a given year. However, up first, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas opens in less than 2 weeks at Children's Theater Company here in Minneapolis on November 4th. Obviously based on the original classic book. It's directed in children's theater by Dean Holt. The music is by Mel Marvin and a musical book and lyrics by Timothy Mason. Joining us now is Janelle Rodriguez, who will be performing as Betty Lou Who, mother to everyone's favorite Who, Cindy Lou. Janelle has enjoyed roles in Disney's Frozen, the Broadway musical, A Year with Frog and Toad, Alice in Wonderland, and Annie at Children's Theater Company. They've also performed throughout the Twin Cities at the Guthrie Theater, Theater La De Da, and Artistry Theater. They join me now. Janelle, welcome back to the Gaily Show.
Hello, good to be back.
I know we talked, I think it was like a couple years ago about Frog and Toad.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to be in conversation again with you. And it is that time of year. So tell us about Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Well, yeah, it's our version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It's, I think, the first stage version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It's set up the year I was born, 1994, and it's kicking 31 years strong.
I did not know that it first premiered in 94.
It did. And a lot of the costume pieces and most of the set design is original. So we've got vintage all around.
Ooh,
we love an antique and gay.
Is the design based off of the animation style from the classic cartoon?
It is. And the cartoon itself is based off of the illustrations from the book. But yeah, it's very all encompassing. And I believe at that time we actually had some hands-on advice from Dr. Seuss himself.
Wow.
Huh.
Wow. So tell me about Betty Lou Who.
Yeah, small correction, not her mom. I'm her elder sister. Mama who's played by our wonderful Autumn Ness.
Oh no.
Yeah. But I'm Betty Lou Who. I'm the eldest of 5. We've got 5 siblings. So I'm Betty. There's Danny, Annie, and Cindy, and Boo. So those are the 5 siblings.
And okay, so I apologize about that. Gonna look back at my research and see where I found that from. But so Betty Lou, elder sister to Cindy Lou Who, what is Betty's role in the story?
She's kind of serves as like a character of transition. So she's like around the kids a lot and she likes to have fun, but you kind of start to see her trying to like meld in with the adults as well. So you kind of see her just like transitioning in that world of Whoville.
The Who's have a very specific look. How do you achieve that with, there's the costumes, obviously, but there's makeup, and is there prosthetics too? Like, how do you, or is it a mask?
There used to be. We used to have prosthetic noses. We haven't for a while now, which, thank God, because that takes a while. But I would still equate it to like a good bit of drag makeup. We have to glue those brows on and cover them up because we want to give a more like, I would say like a 1930s, like Betty Davis kind of brow. So we
Ooh,
stencil them in, and we like have to hide as much as possible. So we've got like that thick, full coverage Hollywood makeup. So yeah, it's a lot. It's kind of scary up close, but it looks fantastic on stage.
They're a musical. Is there a particular song that you most love performing in the show?
God, it's probably a toss up between the opening and the finale. Well, toss it for second because there's classic Fahu Forays. That one you just can't beat it. It's everyone knows it. It's classic. I mean, that's the tune that everyone repeats. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, even in my favorite version of Grinch, the Jim Carrey version, that was there and it's iconic.
Oh gosh, it's for me. It's the animated special. I literally watch it every year.
Yeah,
Every
it's
year.
a good one, and Dean is such a great director. He actually, since this is his second year directing it, and every year since he's directed, he's had us like take some time to watch the original animated film, because it plays such a big role in everything we do, and it's it's such a great encapsulation of the story and how the Who's are. They're actually not that rambunctious as the Grinch imagines it to be. They're actually a very peaceful, serene people. So it's really cool to like notice these little details and be like, oh, maybe I can do something from here and there. So it's really cool.
Yeah. We are talking with Janelle Rodriguez, who is starring as Betty Lou Who, sister to Cindy Lou Who, in Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas at Children's Theater Company, which opens November 4th. Okay, so the animated show had Boris Karloff, and you have Reed Sigmund as the Grinch. And we actually here at AM 950 just got the commercials going. And before I even understood what was happening, I heard that voice and I'm like, I bet you anything that's the Grinch. And it was. Tell me about what it's like working with Reed and his characterization of the Grinch.
Oh dear God, Reed is one of the funniest people I've ever met. He is he has like almost no boundaries when it comes to like comedy. Like he just like has like almost like a kid's brain, and it's just so funny to watch him just like let loose and just like be as silly as he can be. And I've seen him do it for so long now. He's done it for like almost a decade at this point, and I think I've this is my fourth Grinch with him. So it's so cool to see just like that level of improv like that I can never do. I look at him, I'm like, that's amazing. Not couldn't be me.
So there are opportunities within the show for some improv that kind of makes it unique to each audience.
Oh yeah, especially when we get to the actual stealing of Christmas, it's always this like big, huge audience participation. He's throwing things out into the audience, throwing things from the
Love
audience.
that.
There was one there was one time last year, and I couldn't see it, but all of us could hear it downstairs. Some lucky little child out in the audience just ran up to Reed, and all you can hear Reed say is, "What do you belong to?" And as the story goes, he just picked him up and just he had the time of his life, that kid.
Wow. Oh, that's wild. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, talk to us about the sets of this. Like, I mean, is it huge design sets? Like, are there like walk us through the visuals? Is that what
They
I'm?
are pretty huge. And they're also like larger than life in a cartoonish way. They have like interesting curves and shapes. They're not like, pine trees usually go pretty straightforward up, but like our pine trees like curve around in like arches, and the color palette itself is very true to like the book and the cartoon. It's that like vintage mid-century like pastel kind of tones. It's so like it's like a time capsule almost. Like when you see it and it's preserved, it's just really, it's lovely.
How long does it take for Reed to get in full Grinch gear and makeup?
He's pretty quick with it now, actually. I think it takes him like the full 30 minutes to get into makeup and costume, which is faster than me. I have to get there like 30 minutes prior because I like to take my time with my brows. I don't like them to be
Yes.
gnarly. I just like to have them laid and nice and flat. So I take like a good like 45 to 60 minutes, but he's got it down to a science. He's got it in 30 minutes, no problem.
I talk to me about the reaction, because the great thing about children's theater is that you have just these amazing audiences of kids who just get so excited to be there. What are their reactions when that curtain goes up and they see this whole thing come to life?
Well, they always scream when we dim the lights. When you dim the lights, that means it's time for the show. And, most adults, that means it's time to quiet down. But it never fails whenever we have the school shows and those lights go down. We just hear those little squeals because they get so excited something's about to happen. So that's a great indicator that it's going to be a good show. And then whenever we get to the Grinch, he's there. It's just so rambunctious, so loud. They're so excited. He's almost like a superhero, even though he's kind of the villain.
It's an anti-hero story, right?
Yes. Yes.
Caricature.
He turns around. He does a 180.
Do you do talkbacks with kids after certain performances?
Yeah, after all the student matinees we do, there's usually 3 of us. We usually pick one person from like each kind of department. So we have one person from crew, one of the adult actors, and one of the student actors. So that we have when we get those questions, anyone can answer them in a different facet. So if there's like a tech question or a set question or a costume question, then we've got crew there who can answer better than us. But if there's like a student who wants to know what the work-life balance is, then student actors there ready to answer those questions.
I love that. We got to take a break here. We're going to have more with Janelle Rodriguez, who is starring as Betty Lou Who in Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas at Children's Theater Company. Before we take that break, I want to share about our travel partner, Travel Marquette. I just got back from Marquette last weekend. I was at the Fresh Coast Film Festival. I'm going to have reporting on that. I promise. I've got all sorts of good sound from there. And part of the reason why I love going to Marquette and being in partnership with Travel Marquette is that I don't have to worry about traveling while queer there. It's a university town in a super blue city in a reliably blue county with a very active pride organization. And even though it was October, I saw pride flags everywhere around town. And it was so nice to just disconnect from the news, relax, eat some good food, buy some good books, and just reconnect with it, as it were, in nature. If that is something that you would like to do, you can go to travelmarquette.com. That's travelmarquette.com. More after this break. Welcome back to the Gaily Show. We are coming up on the bottom of the hour. Janelle Rodriguez has performed in Disney's Frozen, the Broadway musical, A Year with Frog and Toad, Alice in Wonderland, and Annie, all at Children's Theater Company. They will be portraying Betty Lou Who in Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas at Children's Theater Company, which opens November 4th. They are my guest right now. Before the break, Janelle, you were talking about how there are talkbacks after matinee performances and how there are different folks from the different departments that show up there. I'm curious about kids' reaction to the show and the types of questions that they ask. Are they just starstruck? Are they like, what are the reactions to it?
They are, especially with some of the technical elements for that show. It's kind of nuts. We have, I don't want to give it too much away, but we have a segment called The Wild Ride, and it looks so cool. And almost like 9 times out of 10, they always ask questions about it because it's technically so astounding. It's at the top of our second act, and it's really cool.
I love that. Are there any sing-along parts to it?
Yes, there is. We started doing that last year. We have like a little sing-along snippet at top of Act 2. Yeah, we just have a little mean one sing-along, and it's really fun.
I mean, yeah, there's that classic. I mean, how do you not sing when it comes on? We're all doing it anyway when we hear it. We're watching the show on TV. If I may pivot a little bit, because as a queer performer, and I know we've talked about theater in the past and the power of it for us. I'm curious if there's any thing that you're watching or doing right now that or reading that is bringing you some queer joy in the world right now? Because I know I'm looking for all those areas given the times that we're living in.
I recently did a deep dive and my Halloween costume for this year is inspired by a rewatch of the classic Jennifer's Body, which I did not, it did not do well when it came out, but I now feel like it has like a real cult following because like we don't really see like, the internalized like bi queerness that we like put in, and that's like what Jennifer represents is like that compet and needy, both of them. It's like that compet need, and I think Chaperone kind of like spearheaded that with her like hit from last year. It's just like such an underrated queer film.
Wait, tell folks about it if they haven't heard about it.
All right. I don't want to spoil it too much. Jen, So we've got Jennifer and Needy. They're great friends. Needy has a boyfriend, and she's kind of like that ride or die kind of friend. She just kind of goes along with everything Jennifer says. Jennifer's the more lively one. She kind of gets them into trouble. And one day they go to a concert with this band with these not so great dudes who decide that to make themselves more famous, they need to sacrifice not experienced woman, will say, who they think Jennifer is, but she is not. And so they end up sacrificing her. And because she is not exactly what they were looking for, she ends up turning into a succubus who needs to feed off of people to survive. And she decides her victims are all men.
Do we know where this is streaming? Is it streaming?
I don't know right now at the moment. I rented it off of YouTube.
Right, oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, you can always find everything on YouTube.
Oh,
We're on
yeah.
YouTube, by the way, for folks who are listening right now. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can totally do that. I am here with Janelle Rodriguez, who's starring as Betty Luhu and Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas at Children's Theater Company. I want to ask you about the power of theater in this moment, because I remember when I was a kid and I first went to see shows, I think the first thing I saw was Phantom of the Opera. And it just did something to me that was magical in a way that, film is very, cinematic, obviously, and you see it in a big screen, and it's just like, whoa, it can be very jaw-dropping. And obviously television has that very comfort food, to it. But there's just something about being in the theater with other people and having it right there in front of you in 3D. And I think for queer folks as well, we gravitate towards the theater because of this magic, because of this ability to sort of create and tell stories. Tell us about what the theater means to you as a queer person and the power that it can have for us as a community.
God, I just think there is nothing like seeing human emotion right near you. The thing that I feel like is so different from film is that there's always like a bit of a facade right there. But when it's gone, there's something a little bit more tangible to it. Um, and you can just feel the reaction a little bit more uniformly, I think. Yeah, and there's nothing quite like it. Also, from a technical aspect too, it's not so like difficult to understand how they can do that in a film, but when it's done so superbly and so quickly in real life, it's almost like a magic trick, and you're just like, how did that even happen? And then you spend like days like trying to figure it out before you end up asking a friend, all right, how did you do it?
I think also I don't know if this is the right word, the ephemeral quality of it. Like if the show's running, you get to go back multiple times, which obviously we hope folks do with Dr. Seuss's The Grinch Stole Christmas at Children's Theater Company. But there's something about the temporality of it, with the movie you can watch it like over and over and over again, but when you're sitting there and you're watching it in the theater, and it just has that more heightened sense of magic, I think, to it. And I think magic is the perfect word to use for it.
Yeah, no, it's quite magical. In fact, one of my favorite, one of the best live shows I'd ever seen, and I saw it here in the Twin Cities back when the old log was still up. It's called The Play That Goes Wrong. And it is Farce doesn't even begin to describe what that show is. I had the best time. And when I say the memory of that show is still in my heart, partly because I have to, it is nowhere to be found. I have tried my hardest to see if I can slime tutorial that show, and I just cannot find it. And it's such a great show. But if you ever need more of that, like I do, the team behind it, Mischief Theater, they had 2 seasons out of similar things called the Goes Wrong show that is actually up on YouTube, and that's how I get my fix. But I still can't watch. I can't watch the play that goes wrong, and that live show was everything.
Everything. Well, hopefully you'll get to have a chance to see it again. The show is Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas at Children's Theater Company. It opens November 4th at CTC. You can get your tickets at childrenstheater.org. Let me fact check and make sure that I've got that correctly. Yes, childrenstheaterre.org. And from personal experience, don't wait on getting these tickets because they do go fast. Janelle, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure seeing and talking to you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
All right, folks, we are going to take a break, and we still have some Dr. Seuss theme in the second half hour of the show. You're listening to The Gaily Show on WCPT 820 and AM 950 Radio, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Coming to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk. Welcome back to the Gaily Show. I'm John Parker. It is 33 minutes after the hour. David LaRochelle has been creating books for young people for over 30 years. He is the recipient of the Theodor Seuss Geisel Award, the Sid Fleischman Humor Award, multiple Children's Choice Awards, and a 4-time winner of the Minnesota Book Award. Continuing our sort of tangential Dr. Seuss theme for today's episode that was completely unplanned, but I realized this morning, I'm like, oh, well, David is the winner of the prestigious Theodor Seuss Geisel Award, which is named after aka Dr. Seuss, Theodor Geisel. It is given to the most distinguished American book for beginning readers published in English in the United States in a given year. David's many picture book titles include The Best Pet of All, How Martha Saved Her Parents from Green Beans, See the Cat, 3 Stories About a Dog, and my personal favorite, Moo. A former elementary school teacher, David still visits many classrooms around the Midwest and actually the world each year, talking with students about books, writing, and illustrating. He has 2 books. I've got them here in front of me, so I'm going to try to show them to folks as we go along here on the YouTube. How to Draw a Tree, and the very funny Mr. Fox's Game of No, which made me laugh out loud multiple times during it. So, David, welcome back to the Gaily Show.
Well, thank you, John. It's an honor to be chatting with you again. Thanks for asking me.
Oh, likewise. For folks who don't know, David is always at the Minnesota State Fair every year, where he's running all sorts of fun things for kids and adults, like maybe myself, who want to stop by and adopt a pet dragon during the fair. And if you follow him on Facebook, David, I'm assuming you're putting some pretty rad photos of some pumpkins. Carved pumpkins.
John, I think this might be the first year in 45 years where I am not carving pumpkins, but I am going to put some pumpkins from the past 10 years, like what I carved 10 years ago. So I'll have like 5 of those photos.
If you think you've seen cool pumpkin carvings, wait till you see David LaRochelle's, because they are, I don't even understand how they happen. They're really delightful. They're really magical. Okay, speaking of magical, should we start with How to Draw a Tree? So this just came out
great.
earlier this year. And I've got all sorts of notes here. I gotta stay talking into the microphone. So this is a book which is literally for kids about how to draw a tree. And where did the idea for this one come from? I always love hearing where your ideas come from around your various books.
Well, there are plenty of books I have absolutely no idea where it came from. But for this one, How to Draw a Tree, I do know where the idea came from. It goes back to when I was in college. I went to St. Olaf College in Northfield. I studied art and English there. And I remember our art professors would tell us spend at least as much time looking at whatever it is that you are drawing as looking down at your paper, which is actually a very, very hard thing to do, because we'll look at something and we'll say, oh, yeah, I know how that looks. I know what a tree looks like. And then we'll just stare at our paper after that. And I am very guilty of having like 2 trees that I can draw. I can draw a pine tree, and then I can draw this round circle that looks like a lollipop with a stem on it. But there are so many other different looking trees than that. And when you start to pay attention to really what something looks like, if you really sit and look at a tree, you'll see they look so many different ways. I'm fascinated by trees. The branches are different. Some trees are gnarled, some are smooth, some are wide, some are narrow. And the same thing goes for anything that you draw. I had like one boy that I can draw, but of course everyone looks different. I have one dog, until you start looking at those objects and you'll just be amazed at the differences between things, because of course we're all different from each other.
Mm-hmm. I love in there that you have the tactile sense. You have rub your hand along its bark. Don't be shy. The tree won't mind. Does the bark feel rough and bumpy, smooth and papery? I love all of the attention to detail that you're asking the reader to observe, because I feel like that skill can also go beyond just observing and drawing a tree.
I hope so. I hope the book is also an encouragement for young people and old people like myself to get outside and really spend time looking at nature. And I find that even when I am outside, lots of times it's just going from one indoor place to another indoor place. But if you just sit and give yourself 10 minutes to be quiet and to look, and as you said, John, use all of your different senses, which is what the book is encouraging people to do. It's amazing what you will notice. Guarantee, cross my heart. If your listeners go out, spend 10 minutes looking at a tree, they will be amazed at all the different things that they never saw or heard or felt before.
And I mean, perfect time to release the book for fall. I think right now, like, we're sort of beginning to get past the color season, but just a wonderful time, I think, for kids who are getting back to school to read your book and then to be immediately run outside and have all of these gorgeous colors waiting for them to watch and draw.
There's a local school district who decided to use this book as part of their curriculum. It's one of the nature charter schools. So the story is really an encouragement to get outside, and that ties in so well with a school that has a strong nature theme. And it's also just a good reminder about how we pay attention, and again, as I said, all the things that you can notice. You mentioned the fall, and I want to point out my favorite illustration in the book. You can see that or not.
Yes.
And I didn't give credit to the person who is responsible for at least half of the book, and that is Colleen Muskie, the illustrator. Her illustrations are just gorgeous. I'm so pleased with what she did. And as an author, and you probably know this, John, or maybe you've heard me talk about it, I have very little contact with the illustrator. So I am just keeping my fingers crossed, hoping that the illustrator will come up with something that I like. And in this case, I could not be more pleased with Colleen's artwork. And all the reviews of the book, they've all cited it as how beautiful her paintings are.
I'm here with award-winning author David LaRochelle, who has 2 new books out this fall, Mr. Fox's Game of No and How to Draw a Tree, which we're talking about right now. I mean, maybe it's stereotypical, But my favorite illustration was the one with the rainbow.
And, and talk about surprising details. There's no mention of the rainbow in the book, but that's the treasure, the joy of having an illustrator who is creative. Colleen came up with that idea just all of herself. And she also came up with all the different trees in the book. I mentioned no specific types. My only goal was I asked her to represent trees from all across the world, not just in Minnesota where I live. And she did an amazing job of that.
I think maybe, I mean, am I a control freak? That would terrify me to just give my words away and then go, let's see what happens with an illustrator. When are you brought back into the process? Like, do you get to see galleys before it goes to the publisher, or do you literally just get a finished copy and are like, ta-da?
It depends on the publisher, and it also depends, I think for me, because I have been writing books for over 35 years. I remember my very first book, I sent the manuscript to the publisher. When they decided to publish it, I did not see any of the artwork until the book was just about ready to be published. So of course, just like you said, I was waiting very nervously to see and hope that I would like the illustrations. This is probably at least my 30th book or so, and I've worked with this publisher before. And I was lucky that, for one thing, they gave me a selection of illustrators they were thinking about, and they asked me my opinion. And that doesn't always happen. And I chose Colleen, and sometimes they ask my opinion and they choose somebody that I didn't even pick. But in this case, they chose the person I was hoping for. And then when Colleen did her first round of sketches, they would send the sketches to me for my approval, to if I had anything that I felt strongly about. They do not want me to talk to Colleen about the illustrations. I give my comments to the art director at the publishing company, and then the art director decides which of those comments to pass along on to Colleen. So, and the reason why they keep the artist and the author separate is because they do not want me saying, all right, in this book, I would like the girl to be wearing a blue dress, and I want the dog to look like my neighbor's dog, when it's turned over to the illustrator for her to have the freedom to do her illustrations. That's when she comes up with those wonderful details, just like you mentioned, putting that rainbow in the background or choosing the type of trees that she wants to draw. So when you have a great illustrator, they just take your words and they amplify them and they add a great deal of creativity to that, which I have been lucky enough to have with almost all of my illustrators.
I imagine then when you see the illustrations, are there times when the artwork, the illustration brings out something about the story that you didn't even realize was there when you wrote it?
Oh, and I missed the very last part of what you said, John. Did you say there are sometimes the illustration doesn't match what I'm thinking of?
No, I'm curious about when when you see the illustrations, is there something that comes up that you're like, oh, I had no idea that there's a whole other element to my story when I wrote it, and that's now coming out in the illustration as you're seeing it?
Yep, that certainly has happened, where the illustrator has added maybe another storyline to go along with the book. And that can just enhance it. And just the adding of the details of things like color can enhance the emotion. You mentioned my book, Moo, which is a one-word book just about Moo. But the illustrator, Mike Winutka, did so much subtle impact with the color choices. He told me that, which I did not notice, the background for the book, every single page, it's a different shade of color, and it reflects the emotions that this cow is going through on her pretty wild day. So from a red background when she's excited about something, to a very subdued background when she gets caught red-handed for what she has done that day. And when I went back and looked at it, I said, that's just brilliant with what he did.
It is for folks, you all need to get it. It is an ingenious book. Literally, there's only one word, moo, but David and Mike take us through this entire character journey, and beginning, middle, and end, and it is absolutely, oh, it's ingenious. I love it. Speaking of love, Mr. Fox's. I've got just about 90 seconds before we have to hit a break here, so we can start talking about Mr. Fox and then continue it afterwards. So here, holding it up, it's Mr. Fox's Game of No, and also very clever little setup. Do you want to? Maybe you can tell us about the plot, and then we can get more into it when we come back.
Sure. The plot is pretty simple. Well, as you know, John, I love to play games, and we have played games together in the past. And that's what Mr. Fox is. It's a game. And Mr. Fox says at the beginning, and he gives the rules for the game. He says, here's how it works. Every time I ask a question, you have to say no. But if you accidentally say yes, then you have to go all the way back to the beginning of the book and start over. Would you be willing to try that, John?
Well, let me take a break, and then we can try.
Yeah,
that.
I was going to catch you. I was going to have you try to say yes, and then I was going to fool you with it.
Well, in that case, no, I have to take a break. So we're going to have more with award-winning author David LaRochelle when we come back. You can keep the conversation going on our Blue Sky, where we have all sorts of additional progressive LGBTQ news and analysis happening. You can follow us. We're at thegailyshow.org on Blue Sky. And of course, follow us and watch us on our YouTube channel. We've got author interviews up the wazoo. So if you're looking for a new book to read this weekend, we have a whole playlist of author interviews. Just go to youtube.com/@thegailyshow. More when we come back. Welcome back to the Gaily Show. I'm John Parker. We are coming up on the top of the hour. He's the winner of the Sid Fleischman Award for Humor, which is given to authors whose writing exemplifies the excellence of writing in the genre of humor. He has 2 new books out, How to Draw a Tree and Mr. Fox's Game of No. Our guest is David LaRochelle. We were just getting started with Mr. Fox before the break. And something I appreciated about this is, and I don't have kids and I'm really never around kids, but as I remember as a kid, one of my favorite words was no. So is that something that was, you're like, how did this book get started? Was it that you have, when you go to your school visits and whatnot, you just have a lot of kids that are like, they want to say no, and so you turned it into a game?
No, not at all, John. As I said before, sometimes I know exactly where an idea for a book came from. In this one, I do not have an idea. Other than I like to play games, and other than I like to make books, when possible, interactive books between the reader and the child. Picture books are often referred to as performance pieces. They are meant to be read out loud to either a child or to a group of children. And you can read them on your own, but think of picture books in general. It's a librarian lots of times reading it, or a teacher reading it, or a parent reading it, or the bachelor uncle reading the book to their kids. And this is a fun book to read out loud. When I go to school visits, kids love to play it. More importantly, they like it when their teacher is asked to be the game player and the teacher makes mistakes, and the kids just think it's very, very funny.
Well, I mean, you kick it off right away where you ask, you set up the rules. If you accidentally say yes, then you have to go all the way back to the beginning. And are you ready to play? And you would just assume like, yes. And oops, you said yes. And you got to go right back to the beginning of the book. So you get them right away.
There are many, many teachers who have fallen for that one. So yes.
And then you tempt them with fun things like a giant strawberry sundae. You tempt them with a beach party in Hawaii, of all places. You tempt them with $1 billion. This was really fun to go through.
And what I hear back from teachers and librarians is the page they like the most is where there's a list of questions. Okay, we'll play with you, John, even though you know what you're supposed to do. Are you stronger than a baby?
No.
Do you like to eat pizza? I almost told you. Do you like to eat pizza?
No.
Can you add 1 + 1?
No, in real life I can't. My math skills are notoriously bad, David.
Are you wearing any underwear?
No. It's gonna take on a whole different dimension of adults.
What do the letters YES spell?
No. And
Did you answer no to all those questions?
Oh my God. I was about to say sure. Does sure count?
We would have had to go back to the beginning of the book with that, John.
See, it is so much fun. And folks may not know this, but you also create games. You're not just a lover of game playing. You are also, in addition to this book, create games all the time.
Yeah, I'm a member of a game night group, and we meet during the winter, and each person thinks of a theme every week, and that person is responsible for inventing the games. So the theme could be, Harry Potter, or it could be the state fair, or it could be Broadway musicals. And it's just a lot of fun to whoever is the host to invent games that go along with it. And a book that came just before Mr. Fox, Go and Get with Rex, is a result of one of the games that I invented. I mean, it comes straight for a game I invented for one of our game nights.
It's just such a delight talking with you, David. We are here with award-winning author David LaRochelle with his 2 new books, Mr. Fox's Game of No and How to Draw a Tree. Something I did want to ask you, which is this is going to be a breakneck transition here. We had a ruling from the Supreme Court earlier this year. We're just a little moment to be serious before we go back to the fun. And I want to say that because these books are supposed to be fun, and all of these books are fun, regardless if they're written by, LGBTQ authors or by straight authors, trans authors, cisgender authors. The point that you all are doing is creating a love of reading, and you're doing it in a way with 500 or less words and amazing illustrations. And yet we have a Supreme Court that was like, nah, if it's about an LGBTQ character or themes, don't have it in the classroom. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Just, very, very sad, of course. And when the Supreme Court made their ruling, I think they were looking at either 7 or 11 books were brought up. One of those books, Love, Violet, which is a picture book, was written by a dear friend of mine, Charlotte Sullivan. And it is the sweetest book you can imagine. It's about an elementary school girl who on Valentine's Day has written a Valentine to this girl that she admires. And she's just afraid to give it to this girl because she's afraid that the girl might make fun of her or will not be happy with the Valentine. And finally, she decides to do that. And the two of them go off and play horses together. How could anyone think that that is a bad thing for a child to see? And there's nothing explicitly gay about it. But if you happen to be a young person who maybe has a crush on somebody of the same sex, you would recognize yourself in the book. And that is so empowering, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yes, we actually got to talk to the author Sarah Brannon of Uncle Bobby's Wedding, which actually isn't about really Uncle Bobby's wedding. It's more about a kid who's nervous about, here's my favorite uncle. Am I going to get to know him and see him anymore now that he's getting married? He just happens to be getting married to a man.
Exactly.
But David, I can't believe that our time is up. I always love talking with you. The books are Mr. Fox's Game of No and How to Draw a Tree. You can connect with David at his website, davidlarochelle.com. Folks, we've got to go now. Thank you for listening. You can catch us back here same time, same place on Monday. In the meantime, have a great weekend and keep it queer, America.